Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. Our program is about to begin. Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. Ladies and gentlemen, take your seats. Our program is beginning. Ladies and gentlemen, take your seats. Our program is about to begin.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening, everybody. This is the mark of a successful event. So it is my great pleasure
Here, Nancy.
Is this not working? Okay. Good evening, everybody. Is it working? Okay. Good evening, everybody. It is the mark of a successful evening that there's such energy in the room, and I apologize for interrupting, but it is my great pleasure to welcome everybody for a very special event and a wonderful evening. My name is Nancy Lindborg. I'm the president of the United States Institute of Peace, and I'm delighted to welcome you here to the Peace Concourse of the U.S. Institute of Peace. And for those who are joining us for the first time, the USIP was founded a little over 30 years ago by Congress, dedicated to the proposition that peace is essential for our national and international security, that it's very practical, and it is indeed possible. And so USIP works with partners in conflict zones and in areas that are transitioning out of conflict around the world with partners, providing them with the kind of research, the training, and the methods that enable them to resolve conflict so that it doesn't become violent, and if it does become violent, to help that country move out of often terrible tragedy. So we are the institutional parents of Peace Tech Lab. For those of you who are here through your association with Peace Tech Lab, we were delighted to spin Peace Tech Lab out into its own independent organization about 3 years ago. And it is now partnering here in the Peace Concourse with CS Capital Limited, with Amazon Web Services, with SAP National Security Solutions, and together they have been here for the last year looking for new and innovative ways to use technology to build peace and to resolve conflict. And so I want to just take a note of appreciation and say how grateful we are for the ongoing vision and partnership of our good friend Andre Pinar, without whose efforts we wouldn't be. Andre is a very active and valued member of our International Advisory Council. He has the great gift of being able to turn vision into action at great speed. And this evening is in part a tribute to that ability. So tonight represents the culmination of the first global anti-corruption innovation challenge. This is truly significant, and it's an important application of technology to one of the great problems of our time. I just recently returned from Iraq, where I saw, once again, firsthand, the corrosive effects of corruption and the reality that without getting that in hand, Iraq will be very challenged as it moves through this pivotal post-ISIS period. And for those of you who saw the Transparency International Corruption Perceptions Index that came out recently, you will note two important things. One is that the majority of countries listed did not make progress over the last year against corruption. And two, that the countries grouped as the worst at the bottom of the list are also those countries that are most mired in terrible, terrible conflict. So this is an issue that is not only core to the partnership working here as a part of the accelerator, but also very central to the mission of the U.S. Institute of Peace. So we need, without question, to harness all of our tools, redouble our energies to tackle this, and the energy that has gone into this evening and the opportunity to harness new technologies is very, very exciting. And I'm delighted to be here for a number of reasons, one of which is that I now get to introduce a wonderful friend to many of us, Chet Crocker. Chet is currently the James R. Schlesinger Professor of Strategic Studies at Georgetown University, where he teaches and does research on conflict management and regional security. Previously, he was the U.S. Assistant Secretary of State for Africa, and he was also the former officer at the National Security Council, a former staff officer. We know him as one of our stalwart board members. For many years, he was our board chair and then a very active board member. He is now a part of our International Advisory Council. He has written many of the seminal works that have guided the field of conflict prevention and conflict management. And in short, he is simply one of the wise ones among us. So please help me welcome Chet. There he is.
Thank you. Thank you very much for those kind words, Nancy. It's great to be back here at USIP, which is a place very dear to my heart. It's a place that does many things, which Nancy's already mentioned. But one of the things it does is to remind us what it's like to have fact-based analysis. And so that's what USIP does. It actually connects facts to problems and then problems to solutions. You need facts to be able to do that. Now, I was asked to introduce, say a word or two about Andre Pienaar, which I'm delighted to do. Is this mic working okay? Yes. Good. When you ask a professor to say a couple of words about somebody, it's actually a pretty high-risk proposition. But I'll keep it, within an hour or so. So, professors don't actually retire. They just lose their faculties over time. Right? So, Andre and I go back 20 years, and I've been businesses, but he's been the leader in building very successful businesses in the field of business intelligence, which was his enterprise at G3, where I joined him for a period of time, and more recently the stable of companies and enterprises connected to the C5 group. I want to say a word or two about the special qualities of this remarkable person. Andre brings to the table knowledge of technology, knowledge of risk management, and knowledge of governance. And those are all connected, and they're all very important. So I just think it's important to say that about Andre. But I also want to say a word about the secret sauce that makes him the very special entrepreneur that he is. I think it's worth noting that Andre's formative years were in the crucible of South Africa during its transition. And Andre decided early in life that he was going to be a world citizen. By the way, I hope you're eating your salad. Please do go ahead and start your meal. Andre is a world citizen, and it's a very important quality that he has. Secondly, I think he had the wisdom to get degrees in both law and international relations. Since I was married to someone who had those same credentials, and my eldest daughter has those credentials, I think they're terrific. So that mixture of law and international relations is the key. Finally, and this is the final comment I'd make about Andre, he is a connector. He is a relationship builder. He's a people person, and you don't succeed in the kinds of things that Andre has done in his young life without being a people person. You know, I think we sometimes imagine that the world is governed by isms, by socialisms, or by populisms, or nativisms, or whatever, liberalisms. But those are not the things that shape history. What shapes history is people. And I want to introduce you to a really fine example, Andre Pienaar.
It's truly wonderful to see so many friends and partners of the Peace Tech Accelerator around the room this evening, and we're very honored that you all were able, in the midst of your very full schedules, to join us this evening in support of the first Global Anti-Corruption Innovation Challenge, which we've called Shield in the Cloud. Someone said to me on the way in here this evening that this room where we have the Peace Tech Accelerator based is looking a lot like a nightclub in Cape Town. But I can assure you that we do very serious work here. And that the soft lighting is only for the benefit of our very important guests this evening. The place where we are gathering tonight for this very special dinner is where our Peace Tech Accelerator operates, and where we, in partnership with Teresa Carlson and her team from Amazon Web Services, and Mark Testoni and his team from SAP National Security, and Sheldon and Nancy from the Peace Tech Lab, together in a combined partnership, scale startups from all around the world using the power of cloud computing and SAP HANA to predict, prevent, and mitigate conflict. And the cause of the Global Innovation Challenge is very close to the heart of this battle against conflict, and to build, as President Reagan said when he, during his administration, supported the creation of the USIP, to build a strong peace. I want to share with you tonight some of the reasons, whilst you enjoy your salad, some of the reasons why we decided to create the first Global Innovation Challenge to combat corruption, and why this has been an important focus for us in our work in the Peace Tech Accelerator. And in giving you these reasons, I want to share with you 4 reasons in the form of 4 questions of what motivated us, a specialist venture capital firm, C5, Amazon Web Services is the world's leading cloud computing company, SAP NS2 is the world's largest software company, and the Peace Tech Lab and USIP to partner together to have this Global Innovation Challenge. The focus tonight falls on the leaders that have joined us, the men and women who've built the extraordinary organizations that we will be honoring with our Shield in the Cloud Awards. And unwittingly, many of them have been part of a movement which we call Peace Tech, or Peace Technology. What is peace technology? What does this really mean? This is a question which we often get in the Peace Tech Accelerator. And I just want to take a few moments to talk about what peace technology means and why this movement that we've started together is unstoppable, as you will see this evening when we commemorate and honor the innovation, the entrepreneurship, and the leadership of the organizations that we've gathered here tonight as part of this Global Innovation Challenge. I had the privilege of spending part of my childhood in a very arid but beautiful part of South Africa called the Kalahari Desert. And in the Kalahari Desert, when you see a cloud, it's good news, because a cloud carries with it the promise of rain that can transform the desert into the bloom of the brilliant colors of thousands of flowers. Similarly, today, cloud computing is a force for good in our lives, and it's transforming our world at the unprecedented scope and scale with the opportunity of innovation. Often people ask, what is cloud computing? At its simplest form, cloud is taking the power of the computer, which we've come to know in our personal computer or in our laptop or on our smartphone, and it's industrializing its capacity with computing infrastructure on a global scale for everyone's benefit. Amazon pioneered this by investing billions of dollars to everyone's benefit to build multiple industrial-sized computing centers around the world and networking them cost-effectively with fast-moving fiber optic cable communications. This now means that we need less capital and less infrastructure to grow organizations than ever before. As a result, we can displace capital with technology and build, scale, and innovate globally on an unprecedented scale. I said cloud computing is a force for good in the world, but it's also an integral part of the US leadership of the global economy and the free world today. The US not only created cloud computing, but it continues to lead and innovate cloud. The first 15 companies today in the world are all American. Cloud computing's power to scale innovation, to reduce the cost of computing to the price of a utility, its power to increase the accessibility of computing power at industrial scale to everyone's disposal is one of the main drivers of the global economy today. Cloud will become as important to the stability of the global economy as the US dollar is today as our reserve currency. How does Peacetech then fit into this world of cloud computing? Well, I'm looking at it from the perspective of an investor. As investors, we always have to look for the far horizons, and as venture capital investors, we are the custodians of other people's money as well as our own, and therefore we have to think like stewards. And this is why Peacetech matters to us. Peacetech is the purposeful application of the innovation that cloud computing enables for good and not for evil. It is the strategic application of cloud-enabled innovation to sustain national and international security gains, to build a strong peace, to secure all our children's future. And it is this unprecedented opportunity that we're taking today in launching the first global anti-corruption challenge to focus on one of the most important pillars of peace, which is good governance and combating corruption. This is the first reason why we launched this challenge. The second reason why we launched this challenge is because innovation and corruption are always two diametrically opposing forces. In our experience as venture capital investors who operate in Europe, the Middle East, and Africa, corruption and innovation are never found together in the same place. Where one is present, the other is invariably absent. Innovation thrives on good governance. On the other hand, the destructive economics of corruption kills innovation and opportunity. It wastes the talents of entire generations. In leading this challenge as partners together, we want to strengthen the virtuous cycle between good governance, innovation, and opportunity, which is what the entrepreneurs with whom we partner as investors need to thrive to build their businesses. The third reason why we launched this challenge is because, as General Keith Alexander always says, collective security is the best security model for the 21st century. One of our purposes with this global challenge is to find and support and honor the leaders who are innovators in the fight against corruption and its causes. Fighting corruption and fighting organized crime is often one of the loneliest tasks in the world. Invariably, the bad guys seek to isolate those combating corruption, to target and to diminish them. And the bad guys often have surprising reach. With this challenge that we've launched, we want to connect organizations fighting corruption to build collective security amongst them. We also want to accelerate the pace of innovation by sharing innovation in the fight against corruption across this network. In doing so, we believe we will accelerate the pace of innovation. It is therefore a great privilege tonight to have several leaders and innovators with us who are helping to build corruption and combat corruption around the world. And expressing our gratitude to them tonight, we are also expressing our gratitude and our appreciation to everyone around the world who's involved in this fighting, this great cause, who are not here with us tonight, and we are honoring them in their absence also for their courage. The final reason why we decided to launch this very important challenge is because corruption is corrosive to national security. And we want to highlight this threat. We can never be complacent about the threat of corruption anywhere. Increasingly, the corrosive effluence of corruption also comes from the toxic stream of illegal narcotics and other illicit goods that are flooding the global trade routes of the world to poison our nations and to disrupt and to be destructive in our economies. These same illicit global trading routes and networks that carry heroin, cocaine, and other opioids often carry across them multiple threats ranging from human trafficking to terrorist financing. And increasingly we find that corruption is the lubricant for these corrupt trade networks and illicit links. These same illicit trading networks are exploited by state actors like North Korea to destabilize national and international security. Increasingly, they form part of the lines of attack that these adversaries are pursuing against our nations while camouflaging their hostile intent in a twilight somewhere between war and peace. This clear and present danger and the complexity of this threat requires new tools and models to combat it. And that's one of the reasons why we will be honoring tonight the Special Operations Division of the Drug Enforcement Agency, who's the finest organization in this fight around the world. In conclusion, Vice President Biden last year remarked, "Fighting corruption is not just about good governance. It's about patriotism. It is about self-defense." In honoring these leaders tonight, we ask you to join us in the challenge and to invest alongside us in peace technology and in the future. Thank you.
Hello. Hi, everybody. Can you hear me? Good evening. How are you all? Is this not a fun evening? This is awesome. We're in the Bat Cave. I love it. Hi, AWS team. So I'm Teresa Carlson. I run Worldwide Public Sector for Amazon Web Services, and I'd like to thank C5, NS2, our partner, and of course the Peace Tech Lab for all the work and efforts here. And it's just really great to see these efforts happening because these are sort of ideas and dreams that we came up with and we made it happen. My friend Kate Goodall, who I want to say hi here, who is the CEO of Halcyon House, another incubator that we work with actually between the Peace Tech Accelerator. We communicate, we coordinate, we work together to make the world a better place. And I think this is just an example of the things that we are doing to really pave the way for disruptive innovation and truly make the world a better place. And as Andre said, these things that we're doing here in the Bat Cave are really important. We need to think about areas of corruption. We need to look for new technologies that really can combat corruption around the world. And these are tough things. And some of the individuals you're going to hear from tonight really are our unsung heroes in so many ways with the things they do day in and day out and are sometimes often forgotten for what they're actually doing to think about new ways to solve problems around the world. But one of the individuals that I get to introduce is a true American hero. And I'm going to read a little bit about him, and then I'm going to go off script, as I usually do. So I hope he's okay with that. So, It's my true pleasure and honor tonight to introduce General Keith Alexander to you, who's going to be our keynote speaker. He is a 4-star general with an impressive 40-year military career. As both the role of Director of the National Security Agency and the Chief of the Central Security Service from 2005 to 2014. He holds the distinction of serving in the roles longer than any other director. While serving as the NSA Director, he was appointed by Congress to be the first commander to lead the U.S. Cyber Command. He's held roles from 2010 to 2014, establishing and defining how a nation is protected against cyber attack. He was the recipient of the 2016 United States Military Academy and a graduate, if I can say so. In 2016, a distinguished graduate, and he holds a BS, of course, from the U.S. Military Academy, as well as an MS in Business Administration from Boston University. Today, now I'm going to talk a little bit about what he does today and just a little bit from my heart. He now is the founder of a company called IronNet Cybersecurity. And he provides strategic vision to corporate leaders on cybersecurity issues throughout development of cutting-edge technologies and educational training. Now I'm going to take these glasses off and tell you what I think about him. He is an amazing man who not only represented our U.S. government as a military leader and war hero, but also now he's actually taken those skills and we are working together. He's an AWS partner, which I'm really pleased about because he created a GovCloud at NSA that I still give him a little bit of a hard time about because then we had to go out and create another one with Doug Wolf. But I tease him about that a little bit today. But now he runs IronNet on Amazon Web Services. And I've had the pleasure to go around the world with him and talk to world leaders about how we protect national assets like healthcare, energy, just government in general from attacks, and how you use information flow, machine learning, and artificial intelligence to bring those in and really understand them, and then communicate broadly about what's happening. He's an amazing individual. He's a lot of fun. He's not only a war hero, but he loves music. So he's also an artist, and I also love that he loves bourbon, if I may say so. But again, it's my distinct pleasure to introduce. You're going to love hearing from him tonight and everything he has to say. So please put your hands together and welcome General Keith Alexander to the stage.
Ian, I know you can't believe all that, so we'll come back to that in a minute.
Would you like to be free?
No, that's good. I'd like to be free, though.
I know.
And we'll talk about that later. First, what an honor and privilege it is to be here. And I think what we're doing here with Shield in the Cloud, an amazing opportunity. And having the opportunity to be here at the first one, thanks. Thanks to AWS, Teresa. Thanks to NS2, Mark, Nancy, and Sheldon to PSTEC, and most importantly, Andre, for what you are doing to set all this up. A great opportunity. I'm going to talk for the next about 80 minutes. Or until somebody has to get up and use the bathroom. No, not yet, Ian. I'm going to talk a little bit about my time at NSA, what I saw there. I'm going to talk a little bit about technology and then bring it back to what's going on tonight. And I want to mention the DEA folks here towards the end as well. You know, it was interesting. People said, what was it like going to be the director of the National Security Agency and the commander of Cyber Command? It was amazing. We got to work with amazing people at NSA and around the world. And the distinct pleasure of working with Ian Lobin and his team at GCHQ and others. Absolutely amazing for many reasons. Today what we're here to talk about is combating corruption and terrorist finance and other things. And at NSA and within Cyber Command and the military, what we did, what we had the opportunity to do is to protect our way of life. Simply put, to protect our way of life. And people said, why did you stay in the military so long? My father-in-law asked that question often and concluded because I couldn't get a job on the outside. But the reality was, you know, when you work with people who are willing to give their lives for their country to do the right thing in Iraq and Afghanistan and around the world, it's an amazing group. The intel agencies and others do this every day. And to be a part of that, you know, I thought that's what I want to have. When they say, what did you do between the beginning point, when you were born, and when you die? What's in the dash? I wanted that to be a big part of it. And I'll tell you, it couldn't have been better. And some of those, you know, I remember some of the best times working with folks like Ian. Since he's here, I got to mention him a few times. You said 5 times, right? But actually, looking at what we jointly did in Iraq, and one of those I was going to talk about, the Real-Time Regional Gateway. He asked me to bring this one up. And part of it was, when I went to Iraq in 2006, one of the issues that we faced was the intelligence that the SIGINT, or Signals Intelligence community like NSA provided, was too slow to be helpful. I went over to Iraq and I met with some of our friends, Dave Petraeus, and you get to meet all these great friends of yours and say, how good is the intel? And they said, well, the human's really good. So I know you're very happy with that. But SIGINT's kind of historical. And you think, historical, but it should be real time. It's network, right? And they said, yeah, by the time we get it, it's really good about what happened, but not useful. And so some of the folks came up with this idea of, could we change the way we do business and create a system that would put it all forward and take it from taking about 16 hours down to less than that. And we started out with a name called Real-Time 10, RT10, because we thought we could get an order of magnitude improvement, go from 1,000 minutes to 100. But in reality, we went from 1,000 minutes to less than 1 minute. And in the first year that that was placed out there, Dave Petraeus credits this with breaking the back of the resistance, and it helped take down 3,950 bad guys. I point that out because what we're about is, these are people who wanted to kill our people, not just the US, our allies and all of us. And to be a part of that, to help stop that, was the highlight in my career. And to work with great people across the world to help do that was amazing. And the same thing on the terrorist fight. And when you look at countering terrorism around the world and what's going on with that, it is the most unknown world when you talk to what people think is going on and what you see going on. And one of the things I got from Congress was, why don't you tell the people? Why don't you tell the American people? And we actually anguished over this. This is parts of the Snowden and other things, so why don't you just tell it? And I had a great deputy there, Chris Inglis. And one of the comments that we made is, if we tell people how we're stopping terrorists today, they'll know, they'll learn, and they'll change. And we won't stop them tomorrow. So we came up with the idea of, we're not going to tell how we do that. We're not going to go public, because we can save more lives by not doing it. And you know, the impressive part of that is, we could have got 15 minutes of fame and glory as an agency, or we could provide a decade more security for the country. And everybody agreed, and they never talked about major terrorist takedowns and all those until the Snowden thing required us to do a release on 54 different cases out of thousands. And I'll cover a couple of those. But while all this is going on, there's another transformation that Teresa talked briefly about, and that's now the cloud. So starting in 2006, 2007, the amount of data going on and this whole transformation of the digital community is happening. And it was interesting. I got to NSA. You got to have a sense of humor, and I'm working on that. Actually, I got in trouble more times than you can count, and actually with Rumsfeld, so I found out he doesn't. I found that out, because he had actually asked, when I got to NSA, they had canceled the program that we had of record for collection called Trailblazer, and because it wouldn't scale. And this was one of the first things that actually Ian at GCHQ and I worked, how do we change the way we collect information for the good of all our countries? And we came up with a great idea, and I went down and briefed Rumsfeld, and I asked him, I said, Mr. Secretary, would a 10% increase be good every year? And he thought for a minute, and he said, yeah, that would be good. And I said, I'm sorry, Mr. Secretary, I meant 10 times. And it was at that point he saw I was playing with him. And he started to get really red about the color of the ambassador's dress. And I thought, I'm not going to live to get out of here. So I'm going to talk really fast, explain to him what we did, and leave. And Jim Stavridis was sitting behind me, who was the exec for him. We got out of there. I got out of there alive. That was a Friday. And I thought, he goes, you're playing with fire. And I said, yeah, but it was funny. I didn't think so. Yeah, but, so Monday I get a call from the secretary, and I thought, okay, he's still mad. I used a different word. And he called me up on the red switch, and he says, General, you know that briefing you gave me? Yes, sir. I thought, oh, how mad can you be? Come on. And he said, I want you to meet me in the Oval Office. I want you to tell the president about it. And so I went down to the Oval Office, and it was Cheney, Bush, Rumsfeld, and myself. Everybody else was out. So I explained this, and it was great. And I'll tell you that 6 months later, the president came to, one of those was a cybersecurity portion of this. And I looked at the president, I said, what we need to do on cybersecurity is this. And he nodded. And I thought, I'm an Army officer, I just need a nod, just a little bit, just a faint, I got to sneeze, that's good. He's in. So I thought he's in. So I went back up, I got Steve Ryan and said, Steve, build tutelage. And so Steve, we went out and we built it. October comes and the president is up there, and I said, Mr. President, remember in your office we talked about these 4 programs that we're going to do, and we're going to start tutelage. And he said, yeah, General, when are we going to start that program? And I said, well, Mr. President, in your office when you nodded, I assumed you were in. We started then, we're done. And he goes, hey, Dick, you hear that? They're already done, I didn't even know they started. Now, I'll tell you, I'll come back on President Bush here in a minute. The greatest sense of humor and talking to people that I've met. In this whole transition of these years that you look at, especially from 2005 to 10, what's going on? I'll tell you, it is the transition from an analog community. All our networks were going from analog to digital analog to completely digital. The amount of unique information now that's created every year is more than the last 5,000 years combined. New technology is doubling every 2 years. The top 10 in-demand jobs in 2017 weren't around 10 years ago. Amazon programmers. The iPhone came out in 2007. Think of all the changes. Think about how fast change is coming. We live in exponential times. What's that mean? For all of us, it means we have to change the way we do business. We have to change the way we protect our countries. We have to change the way we work together. And I want to give you just a little bit of insight on what I mean by how we work together and why. Because if you think about just those 3 comments, the data's doubling every year, new technology, new jobs. That means that we're teaching kids in school for jobs that don't exist using technology that hasn't been created to solve problems they don't even know are problems. That's how fast this is going. And it was when we started IronNet. Now, we started IronNet for, I got to be really honest, we started IronNet for one reason. No other company would make me CEO, so I figured if I start a company, I can name myself CEO. So Ian recognizes that approach, right? I'll make or General Graham, you know that. I'll name myself CEO, and then we'll see if anybody will work with us. But we actually had this thought. If you think about the Revolutionary War or any war that's going on, and you think about the way we fight, the reality is nobody fights alone and wins. You don't have a battalion out there that's fighting on its own, and every battalion out there is fighting on its own. They fight together as a collective group. Yet industry, our sectors today, essentially have to defend themselves. And so if every one of you were an energy company, you would share data, but not at network speed. And the consequence is an adversary who wants to do damage to any one of you as companies can take you out before the government could react. You lose. The nation loses. And so I think the first thing that we have to ask is, why do we do that? And this is where AWS has been exceptional. Easy to work with. We stood up the first dome in the energy sector and now the financial sector to do just that. You have to have the ability to fight not just for yourself, but together, because an adversary is going to look at all of you and figure out where the weak links are. And so the opportunity that we have, and we call it Iron Shield, ironically, the shield in the cloud has now two purposes and two opportunities. One of those is how you defend not only a company, not only a sector, but a nation. And so what we have the opportunity to do with these type of incubators and accelerators is to grow that technology needed to now fuel this next generation that's coming along. And that's collective. How do we work together and really leverage what the internet offers? And so the reason I like AWS, well, Teresa is most of it, but, and the bourbon, I gotta hand it to the bourbon, and the humor, but it's also an opportunity to protect our country and work with our allies for not only cybersecurity, but for counter-corruption, anti-corruption, for countering terrorist finance. And these are things that we can do if we work together. Because it's interesting, I had a chance to serve on the Presidential Commission for Cybersecurity for whatever the number of president we're at. So I did this under President Obama, December of 2016. I was the humor in the group. Yes, we lacked humor. And one of the things that I pushed on there, you know, everybody says, have you read the Constitution? And I pull it up. This one? And it says here, they wanted companies to defend themselves. In our Constitution, in the preamble, it says, the reason we created this government, for the common defense. It doesn't say for the common defense unless it's hard. It doesn't say for the common defense unless it's really fast. It doesn't say for the common defense unless you're not important or critical. It says for the common defense, period. That means the entire country. That's the mission our government has in cyberspace. I had the opportunity to meet with President Trump a couple times. And actually, I'll tell you, the meetings were far different than you meet in the press or read in the press. And we explained, I gave him this idea, what we had put into the commission report about that common defense. And, you know, it was interesting. The table was about a little bit smaller than this table here. He had read every point. He understood, he asked great questions, and then he said, how do I help? And then he gave out 4 tasks to the staff. That's what we'd expect of a CEO, and it was great to see the president that way. Now, I don't think he went out and tweeted after that. I don't have a Twitter account. So actually, I think this administration understands what we have to do. and we have a chance to do it. And I think we will. But it can't be done by the government alone. In fact, if you think about communications around the world and in each country, most of them are in commercial hands. Industry owns them. And government can't see that unless we share it with government. We now have the authority to do that, and we can make, I think, some great inroads in this area. I wanted to give a couple other things and talk about for the next 40 minutes 2 other things. And I know I'm running, I've got my timer up here. I put it right here. So I'm running a clock just in case. So I'm good still. I still got 2 minutes and 13 seconds. So there's a couple things I'd like to do. First, and Andre mentioned part of this, but one of the things that the intelligence community, not just the US, but around the world, does is it works with partners like DEA Special Ops Division. And I will tell you, many times those aren't really laid out publicly, but I will tell you, it's an honor and privilege to look at what you've done in DEA, past and present, what Derek and Raymond have done, and you are really deserving of the award you'll get. Let's give them a big round of applause. So Ian, I win that bet, I got a round of applause. So just moving right along. Now, the groups that are going to come in, and it's in your handout, 3 groups of awards tonight for this Shield in the Cloud. The startups, I wish I had known I could have competed in that area. It's the startups. It's I might not have won, but at least I got my name in there. It's nonprofits, and it's the government. And everybody who's participated in it, across all of you, you're all winners. Because I've looked at and seen what's on there, what you've done. And even if you aren't first place here, your companies and your efforts will go very well. You have a tremendous future ahead. More importantly, I would just encourage all of you to remember that we all have to work this together. There is enough talent out here to solve these problems if we work together. So, to end up, it's an honor and privilege to be here. It was an honor and privilege to work in the intelligence community, the military. And I'll tell you, Andre, Teresa, Mark, Sheldon, Nancy, thanks for hosting this. I will say a special thanks, Andre, for all that you've done, and Teresa, to help me and my company as we've gone forward. It is greatly appreciated. And, I was talking to General Graham. The nice part about getting out, there's 3 things you should remember. I don't remember 2 of them, but one of them is work with people you like. Yeah. And I like the way Andre, Teresa, and Mark, the way you all work. So an honor and privilege. Congratulations to the winners as they are announced. I'm not going to announce those. I know that's somebody else. Thank you very much, folks. Thank you.
All right, so now we get to the most fun part of the evening. Good evening, my name is Kurt Scher. I'm the director of the Innovation Center and National Innovation Hubs at Booz Allen Hamilton. More importantly for tonight, I have the privilege of representing a great group of judges that help to evaluate the fantastic companies and organizations that submitted to Peace Tech. So I just want to mention the other judges real quick and make sure they're recognized. So Patrick Garver, Andre Pinar, Andy Powell, and Maura Andrews. So if we can give them a round of applause. Okay, so in terms of the Shield in the Cloud Global Anti-Corruption Innovation Challenge, these companies and teams are poised to make a real impact in solving some of our most critical and relevant problems in anti-corruption. What I expect each of you will conclude after hearing about these outstanding ideas and solutions is really that we're at a turning point. As the General mentioned and alluded to, we are really at a time in history where it has never been easier to get an idea socialized, to attract the capital needed, and to solve the toughest problems as a group that we face in the world. And really, sometimes it's hard to understand how fast change is happening. So for context, we're going to have a little bit of an experiment here. So I've got a purple envelope here. So Andre, we didn't talk about this, but I think you'll support me, right? So let's assume right now, I've got a blank check in here for $10,000. And I'm going to give it to a person out there, anybody that wants it, except there's one catch. One catch. You have to agree never to use the internet again for the rest of your life. How many people want the $10,000? I see a couple, right? Okay. What if it were $100,000? $100,000 to somebody that would, you can have it, but you can never use the internet. How about $500,000? I see a few more hands back there, right? What if it were $1 million? Right now, you walk away from this dinner, you can have it, but you can never use the internet again for the rest of your life. That becomes a little more interesting, right? So this study was done by the economics department at Cornell University of an undergrad class a couple years ago. Guess how many people said they'd take $1 million to never use the internet again? 0, right? So that is, I mean, think about that, right? So think back before you had a smartphone or before you had internet capability. So just a few numbers. This experiment's about massive change that's happening right under our noses. February 1998, so 20 years ago this month, according to Internet World Stats, there were 75 million people on the internet. 10 years later, February 2008, 1.4 billion. And then June 2017, because they don't have numbers for the past 8 months or so, we hit the tipping point where more than 50% of the world were on the internet, 3.9 billion people. So that's now. By 2025, they're expecting 6.5 billion people to be on the internet and be connected. That's a 67% increase from now, where we feel massively connected, to having 67% increase in the cognitive surplus of the human beings that are connected. So if I would have asked you this $1 million question 10 years ago, or definitely 20 years ago, I would expect a lot more hands to be raised. But now it is such an important part of what we're doing. So what is the next thing that from now till 10 years from now to 20 years from now is going to be that $1 million question where you would raise your hand, but we don't know what it's going to be 10 or 20 years from now, where it's going to be so important to the way that we conduct our business and conduct our lives that you would be unwilling to give it up. As the general alluded to, there's many things changing: computation, AI, immersive, augmented reality, virtual reality, 3D printing, synthetic biology. All these things are going to be changing in our world, and we don't know yet how they're going to feel normal and commonplace to us in the future. And so many of these, as Andre was talking about before, which ones of those things can be applied to peace technology? But the most important change that we're talking about here is really about the power of networks. When you talk about the internet and change, it's the ability to connect. And that piece of networks underlies every other change that we have. This is really about increasing the diversity and the volume of thought to drive new ideas across space, and then sharing those new ideas by an audience, for an audience, not constrained by geography, and the application of capital and mentorship that make those ideas real and relevant. And so that gets to context. So we're talking about Shield in the Cloud. Given that context, we now have these great ideas in this great incubator. We're bringing forth ideas to drive anti-corruption in that context. So there's never been so much power in having smart, passionate, connected people engaged in a worthy idea to make it an actionable solution that has true impact. And there's really no better place than Peace Tech to have those ideas blossom. So Shield in the Cloud relies on, as we heard before, the three underlying themes of integrity, accountability, and governance. And so using these principles, this effort has led to a global search for talented startups, really through startups, nonprofits, and even initiatives within large corporations that can be scaled rapidly and sustainably. And so given that, how did we do this? So we looked at a lot of companies and ideas over the past couple of months. What you see in your program is the full list of these spectacular companies that were shortlisted for these awards. Please bear in mind that's about a third of all the ones that applied. So there are even better ideas out there than we even have time to put into print. And I'd just like to say on behalf of the judging team how grateful and impressed we are to everyone who applied. I can say firsthand how challenging it was to select the winners from this very broad and strong collection. So just to review, the winners are going to receive up to $25,000 of cloud credits sponsored by AWS. They're going to receive an Amazon Echo device sponsored by Seed at 5. They're going to get to participate in the Peace Tech Accelerator in this room right here, which is a fantastic working space, but it doesn't look like a place from South Africa in Cape Town. They'll receive media features and press support, and as we all know in this room, access to a deep mentor network, which makes all the difference. It has truly been a fascinating process. I'd like to congratulate all the companies in the room and those not here for their innovation, for their pursuit of greater transparency, and for their understanding of the cloud's role in driving massive change. Let's just give them a hand. So as General Alexander alluded to, the awards break down into three categories: the Dream Big Awards, the Nonprofit Awards, and the Government Awards. So we received the Dream Big category was actually the broadest one. And so we've actually picked 3 winners in that category. These represented scale of innovation in FinTech, RegTech, and GovTech startups. They were ideas and innovation tackling corrosive local issues and those tackling areas of global trade that are a hotbed for corrupt practices and criminal activity, all of which we know drive significant impact in monetary and societal terms. In the end, all of our winners were each selected for having a clear and distinguishable impact on their particular market. So let's get to the winners. So our first winner showed innovation and impressive use cases in addressing the very corrosive local issue of missing, lost, or the poorly managed delivery of state benefits in India. Sadly, the average Indian child has a poor start to life, with nearly 1 in 2 children under 5 years of age suffering from moderate or severe malnutrition. The government of India tried to address this by launching the Integrated Child Development Services, or ICDS, in 1975 to take care of pregnant and lactating mothers and children less than 6 years of age. However, the ICDS program was not particularly effective in reducing malnutrition, largely because of poor implementation, system leakages, false inventory reports, and because the poorest states were receiving the least coverage and funding. So after many successful pilots, the benefits entitlement tracking solution is now operational, serving over 2,000 beneficiaries. The impact has been so phenomenal that the government has agreed to a statewide rollout to enable timely identification and intervention of any cases of child malnutrition. BETS is also being used to monitor and treat tuberculosis patients in India. In fact, the pilot program conducted in Mumbai has been so successful that the problem has been taken up by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation for nationwide rollout in India. So please join me in congratulating our first Dream Big winner, MindGenie.
Wow, this is quite amazing. So, I mean, I could go on to talk more about my product, the way, what we do. I could talk about the subsidy delivery management system that we've developed, and the numerous applications, the challenges that we solve in terms of ghost beneficiaries, service leakages, and on and on. But I would just like to take this moment to kind of express my gratitude. As rightly mentioned a little while earlier, the fundamental challenge that we kind of face in this space is that corruption and innovation don't go hand in hand. And this is where platforms like these become so important for people like us who are trying to bring a positive change. So I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all the event organizers, USIP, and the Peace Tech Lab. Thank you so much for providing us this opportunity. It's been a real honor. Thank you.
Okay, our second winner tackles a major sector of global trade. Over 90% of world trade is transported by sea, and over recent years we have seen an exponential increase in the regulatory focus of maritime trade. This company's technology has been extensively researched and designed to simplify, automate, streamline, and record complex mandatory compliance processes for institutions with sanctions and regulatory exposures to shipping. They enable users to conduct enhanced screening and compliance checks on vessels prior to any engagement and to make informed decisions on regulatory risk prior to commencing in a transaction. So our second Dream Big winner is Purple Track.
The second wow. We are very honored to be part of this program. It's quite difficult. I think most people that have ever heard the head of a system architect or the head of technology from a company like ours speak, following such great speakers and orators here this evening. We're not that good at this, but given that and a bit of jet lag, I did make a few notes, so I hope you don't mind if I share those. I wanted to accept this award really on behalf of my team. Our team at Polestar is quite small. They give me their work life and most of their social life over the last few years, where we've researched and built our Purple Track technologies. Our systems, for those that don't know, are used, I think, as you described earlier, in maritime trade. And shipping is the lifeblood of world trade. 90% of everything gets moved via our oceans, and our technologies are used extensively now by our clients that range from banks, trading companies, governments, insurance companies, in lowering corruption and illicit trade in our oceans, which has been something that's been extensively growing over the last more recent years. So we're very honored to receive this award. Thank you so much to the C5 team, Georgina, wherever you are. Thank you for your help and support. You've been great. To all the organizers, to everyone here this evening, and especially from our part to the other teams that win tonight, you're all fantastic. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
All right, our third winner tackles another distinct sector which illustrates both the demand and the ability to offer greater transparency to both its donors and beneficiaries. Currently, billions of dollars are lost every year to fraud, waste, and mismanagement. The company we are about to award has built the technology that allows social impact decision makers to tackle this corruption and use data as an asset. This company's technology quantifies social impact and is accessible to both funders and beneficiaries. The product provides visibility for funding agencies via a visual dashboard that shows in real time how investments are spent. Its dashboards can also be used to communicate impact to multiple stakeholders. Overall, it combines quantitative and qualitative metrics for a common story behind the impact. Our third Dream Big winner is Mark Labs.
Thank you. It looks very different from up here. It's true that we build dashboards that help you to see, quantify, communicate your impact. It's true that we use artificial intelligence to help track corruption and optimize one's impact performance. And it's also true that we're using blockchain to be able to add an unprecedented level of accountability and transparency into how one is spending money to address some of humanity's most pressing social problems. And it is also true that we do all of this in the cloud, but in reality, we're building this company is actually in the hearts and minds of people like you and the others that are spending their entire lives trying to solve really important problems. And it's in the hearts and minds where trust is absolutely important, and where if corruption exists, trust cannot exist. And you see, the reason why trust is so important is because if it doesn't exist, our very social contract which hold everything together disappears. If trust isn't present, hope disappears. And so really what we're doing at Mark Labs is making evidence in the work which we're all doing to be. And we thank you for this work, and this award. Thank you.
All right, so now we're moving on to the nonprofit category, a fascinating area. As we all see, technology is really empowering the charity sector to better engage, perform, and monitor the wonderful work they're doing around the world. The quality and the quantity in this category illustrates the nonprofit sector their overall tireless pursuit of a better world in which technology innovation offers huge potential. So first, we're going to announce our runner-up in this category. And this organization is committed to enhancing the integrity of public institutions in Brazil. Through a series of successful programs and cloud-based tech tools, they have successfully mobilized citizens, the press, and policymakers to improve transparency and accountability and to tackle corruption in Brazil. Please join me in congratulating our runner-up, Transparencia Brazil. Now to our nonprofit winner. This is a technology provider that deploys its crowdsourcing software platform to enable organizations around the world to collect, manage, visualize, and respond to information from their stakeholders, beneficiaries, and constituents. Their mission and subject matter expertise is in building communication technology to empower people to raise their voices while delivering tools to help organizations better listen and respond to their constituents. Their platform enables any citizen with a phone or a computer to report on violence, corruption, human rights abuses, threats to public safety, a lack of accountability, and other subject areas depending upon their specific project focus. Our nonprofit winner is Ushahidi.
Wow, thank you. It does look different up here. Yeah, thank you. This is an honor. This is truly an honor, and I apologize. I do have a couple of notes as well. It's an honor to be selected from such an impressive group of organizations, and I really want to take a chance and thank C5, Amazon Web Services, Peace Tech Lab, NS2 for putting on this challenge and being supportive of all of our work out here. At Ushahidi, we're celebrating our 10-year anniversary this year, after originally being founded to monitor the post-election violence in Kenya in 2008. And since then, our cloud-based open source software has been used in over 160 countries to collect over 30 million reports. And as was mentioned, our mission at Ushahidi is to build communication technology, to empower people to raise their voices, but also to deliver tools to organizations who can then listen and respond better to their stakeholders and their constituents. So we focus our efforts primarily on corruption, accountability, transparency, advocacy, human rights abuses, election monitoring, disaster response, and others. So we're incredibly thrilled by this award and this opportunity to work with Peace Tech Lab, AWS, and others to improve our solution and to improve our vision for the future as well. Thank you.
All right, we're in the home stretch. The government category was really one of the most revealing. The trends within this category illustrated a willingness within government to harness new technology like blockchain to bring greater transparency and accountability and to build a more sustainable and engaged government. This category also showcased the willingness on the part of governments across the world to work in partnership with private companies to save its citizens billions of dollars. So our runner-up in the government category is a SaaS workflow platform for local government. This company brings government operations online and out in the open with its GitHub-inspired tech. Cloud-hosted, self-service, free from upfront costs, collaborative, and transparent. Our runner-up for its work in partnership with the state of California is City Grows. And finally, our government category winner was chosen for what proved to be a very strong example of a partnership golden triangle among government, businesses, and civil society, significantly improving trust among all key stakeholders. This organization brings much needed transparency to the national state asset sales system in Ukraine, which has been reported to be one of the most inefficient and corruption-prone areas due to limited data availability, restricted competition, unclear tender procedures, and no public mentoring. Our government category winner is Transparency International Ukraine for its Prozoro.sale project.
Hi. First of all, thank you very much. Very honored to be here, and it's amazing to be here with you today at the USA Institute of Peace. First of all, I'd like to thank my team, which made this all possible. Personally, I never actually dreamed about anything like this, becoming a startup, in social startup. Just 5 years ago, I was a portfolio manager doing old school investing. But probably the main reason why I'm here is that I deeply believe in transparency. And Ukraine is in a unique situation right now because the country's been through revolution, war, financial crisis, demographic crisis, and it simply means that the government could not carry on as before, and it supports change. And this creates a great opportunity to do amazing things like the one you award today, or like the one the Ministry of Justice does. And Prozoro.sale has completely changed the game in state asset sales. And why has it worked? For main two reasons. One, it is completely transparent, and in Ukraine we know that transparency generates trust, and that trust is a fuel for social transformation and transformation of the country and the world. And the second reason is that the basis of it all is the golden triangle of partnership between the government, which sets the rules, the business that caters to clients and markets the goods, and civil society that controls and supervises. But the technology is the glue that keeps this partnership together. So me, myself, probably an example of this triangle. I was in business first, right now I'm an activist, and tomorrow I will be the part of the government. And the last thing I would like to mention is that what fascinates me more is that this transformation took just 1 year in a 40 million people country. at war. So if we were able to do that, then probably you could do that too, and we're ready to share it. So thank you. Slava Ukraini!
All right, so hopefully you see the diversity and volume of thought and the passion that could come through with great ideas. And I expect this to be, the first of many Shield in the Cloud galas and contests that we can help to highlight and bring forward these great ideas. So thank you for all the incredible submissions. To the winners, I know that all of us in this room are looking forward to the impact they're going to make. So thank you. So now I'm going to turn it back over to Andre, and he's going to announce two very special awards.
Ladies and gentlemen, dessert will be served in a moment with coffee. But before we get to the dessert, we've kept two very special recognition awards until last. And it's my great honor to present them to you this evening. The first one go to the Special Operations Division of the Drug Enforcement Administration, the DEA. The Shield in the Cloud program is proud to recognize the US DEA for their tireless and innovative efforts in combating and preventing not only global narcotics trafficking, but also grand corruption. The DEA is the US government agency tasked with enforcing the controlled substance laws and regulations of the United States. But the DEA also works globally and has a presence in more than 90 countries around the world, working in partnership with other law enforcement agencies. We are honored to recognize the DEA for their efforts in three areas: the global narcotics trade, AIDS, terrorist funding, transnational crime, and grand corruption. The DEA is the only law enforcement agency that truly operates globally to combat this on a global scale, and in particular has done work tirelessly to take down some of the most dangerous drug syndicates in the world. When the DEA created the Special Operations Division, it created an innovative model for taking down the biggest and the most dangerous syndicates operating globally, and most importantly, from a peace perspective, bringing them to justice. And for those of you who've watched the Netflix show Narcos, you know what I mean. The Special Operations Division is utilizing technology in very innovative ways. One example is the Dyson Darts Big Data program. This program pools law enforcement data at local, state, and federal levels, and it creates an opportunity to share information for maximum effect in arrests, prosecutions, and conviction of these criminals. We tonight have the great honor to have both the current head of the Special Operations Division, Special Agent Raymond Donovan, and the previous head of the Special Operations Division, Special Agent Derek Maltz, with us. And I ask you to pay tribute to them with a round of applause. I would like to invite Special Agent Raymond Donovan to come and accept the Shield in the Cloud Award for bold leadership on behalf of all the brave men and women of the Drug Enforcement Agency.
Thank you, Andre. A few words before I get started. I just want to say and recognize General Alexander one more time, because I'm one individual in the room that can assure you that what he's done for the country, his work at NSA, is second to none. He's a true leader and American hero. So thank you. On behalf of the men and women, as well as the 32 federal law enforcement partners at DEA Special Operations Division, we would like to thank the Institute Peace, Peace Tech, NS2, C5, as well as Amazon for this gracious recognition. It is truly an incredible room here, first of all, let me say that, because you should see my building. It would actually fit into this building, in this room, so I'm a little jealous. The men and women at SOD are dedicated and committed to protecting the rule of law, upholding the rule of law, advancing peace, but also attacking corruption throughout the world. It's incredible work that the men and women are doing there. And as I mentioned, there's 32 different agencies, so it's a true whole of government approach in doing that. It's not just DEA, it's all the federal partners in one place attacking corruption and criminality throughout the world. In an ever-changing world that's getting smaller and smaller through globalization, global integration, through interconnectivity, interdependence through commerce, mainly through technology, we see an opportunity in SOD to build on that, and to build on that. And in that opportunity that has expanded throughout the world, throughout many nations, it's also advanced criminal organizations and networks and terror organizations throughout the world. That same advancement in technology. So what I would say is this. SOD recognizes that the future of law enforcement, public safety, as well as national security lies in integration of systems of intelligence, innovation and technology, and the most important thing is public and private partnerships. That is the absolute way forward for all of us, because the government can certainly not do it alone. So it takes many of you leaders and innovators in this room tonight to partner up with us and the government, and governments throughout the world really, to really take down a lot of these criminal organizations. So with that, I'd like to, again, thank you for the recognition, but I'd also like to thank all of you here for your advancements in promoting peace and nonviolence throughout the world. Thank you.
I've had the great honor of working with some of the senior DA officers across Africa in a previous chapter of my career, and I can truly say that the work that they do to keep all of us safe and our children safe deserves our honor this evening. The last award for this evening goes to a very special leader and a very special institution. A great friend of mine says that leaders create the future, and leaders who have a vision beyond their own business are integral to building the future. It's my great honor tonight to present the Shield in the Cloud Programs Award for the most impactful leadership to Citibank and to its program led by Jay Collins, the Vice Chairman for Corporate and Investment Banking, in its pioneering work through the Tech for Integrity program. This is an open innovation initiative seeking to source technology solutions from around the world that can promote integrity around the world. And in this way, Citibank has promoted a very significant number of startups working in this field of combating corruption to create solutions to help public sector entities increase their transparency and promote their integrity. And this initiative has been done in such a way not only to find these organizations, to help scale and grow them, but also to make the initiative sustainable. And I'm delighted to say that many of these startups will be joining the Peace Tech Accelerator program. We're very honored to have Jay with us here this evening as our guest, and I would like to ask him to join me now on stage to receive the Most Impactful Leadership Program Award.
If I may, I know it's late, I'll say a few words. First of all, accept this on behalf of the 1.6 billion people in the world that have to pay a petty bribe to accept a government benefit when they're entitled to the government benefit without having to pay that. Citi launched this effort really because we believe that applied technology is like bringing a spotlight into the dark room of corruption. And as Jim Wolfenson said, corruption is a cancer, and we have to fight it with absolutely everything we have. And I think all of you in this room today believe that innovation, open innovation and technology really is the killer app, if you will, for us to bring integrity to governments and to people all over the world. I'd like to thank, first of all, C5, AWS, and the leadership of USIP, who really brought us here today. I was first introduced to USIP, I think some 20 years ago, by Dick Solomon and Dave Abshire, who mentored me, and this is a great institution that has given birth to many wonderful organizations, including Peace Tech Lab, and the innovation we see today. Second, I'd just like to thank the partners, because this was a very large crowdsourcing public-private partnership led by Microsoft, IBM, PwC, Clifford Chance, and MasterCard, along with 80 other NGOs and governments around the world, really, as a team effort, where we believed that we could crowdsource, and we crowdsourced 1,000 companies that could come together to fight corruption around the world. And it's a pleasure to see how many of the companies now are part of this initiative and will live on through this. And finally, I'd just like to thank all of our partners, my partners at Citibank, our leader Mike Corbat, for believing that we could do good and do well at the same time, which is so fundamental to how we embrace technology going forward. For those teams that rolled up their sleeves and did a second job, essentially, to make Tech for Integrity work. So on behalf of all of those, it's an honor to be here, and thank you again.
Ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of our program this evening, and I would like to say a big thank you to all our esteemed guests for your support this evening, for joining us for this program. We know how many demands there are on your time. Thank you for your patience to sit through our whole program, and we're delighted to have had you with us. I want to say a special word of thanks to Ambassador Charlie from the Ukraine, to Special Ambassador and Representative Volker, and also to Ambassador Carolus, who will be delivering the Nelson Mandela lecture tomorrow. I have to thank all the applicants and startups, not-for-profits, and government organizations that have applied to join our program. As Kurt said, it was incredibly difficult to select any winners in this process, because all the work that we've seen has been so important, the innovation so phenomenal. So a very big thank you to everyone who participated in the program. I have to thank our judges, and I would just like our judges to perhaps put up their hands. I can see Maura Andrews. I know Andy Powell is here somewhere. Kurt was also one of our judges, and Patrick Garver, who can't be with us this evening. Thank you very much for bringing your professionalism, your experience, and your wisdom to bear to help us select the companies and the organizations that we recognize tonight. A very special word of thanks to our partners for their phenomenal leadership. We are incredibly privileged in this program to have the best partners in the world. A very special thank you to Teresa, who's one of the most dynamic technology leaders, to Mark Testoni from SAP NS2, and also to Sheldon and Nancy and the board of the Peace Tech Lab. The combination of these four organizations have really brought together different perspectives, experiences, and networks to work together towards the same result and purpose, and we are very privileged to have you as our partners. One of our partners can't be with us this evening. This is Richemont and Mr. Johan Rupert, who made a significant contribution to this program, and in his absence, we also want to say a very big thank you to him. I would also like to thank Nancy, who started our program for us this evening, and also Ambassador George Moose, and the other members of the USIP board, and also the USIP team, who've enabled us, alongside the Peace Tech Lab and our other partners, to be here, to work here, to operate here, and it's really your vision that's taking us forward, so we want to say a very big and special thank you to you. I want to thank General Keith Alexander, who was our brilliant keynote speaker. General Keith is a leader in the national security field and in the international security field. I was at an event recently with a number of leading business leaders, and when you talk about cybersecurity and difficult national security problems, often you get a moment in the room when the gloom descends. And General Keith just became very quiet, and in a very confident and reassuring way, he said, "We can find a way through this." And the gloom just lifted in the room, and that's true leadership. And therefore, we were very privileged to have General Keith with us tonight as our keynote speaker, and personally from the C5 point of view, to have you as a partner and along with the INET team, sir. So thank you very much. Finally, I would like to thank my own team, the C5 team, who've done a tremendous job in drawing together this program and leading it over the course of the last year. I want to mention Georgina Callender, who leads the Cloud Leadership Center. The Cloud Leadership Center is our not-for-profit organization that draws together all our charitable and policy work, and Georgina leads it. Also to Jamie Lowther-Pinkerton, the chairperson of the Cloud Leadership Center, and to the whole of the C5 Accelerate team, both the Accelerator team here in the Peace Tech Accelerator, Bea and Dimitra and Kimberly, but also to the leader, Eva Dimitriadis, a great big thank you. And also a very special word of thanks to all my strategic partners and investors who've joined us this evening. I'm enormously grateful for your leadership, for your vision, for your encouragement, and for the wisdom which you bestow on our organization. Thank you very much.
Mitchell. Between you guys.
Eric, how are you? How are you, my friend? Good to see you. Good to see you, buddy. Right here, please. One more, please. Last one. Thank you. One more. You have no idea. Eric, it's so disgusting. Let me. Well, Bill, Eric, let me get one to send to Bill. Yep. Hey, let's get a picture.
Derek, get up here.
I don't want to miss this picture. I got the legend here, the general. And of course, Teresa. She's supposed to pull together all this good stuff for the country. We'll do some work on that. We're learning that the right way around. But GCHQ, forget about it. We got everywhere those guys are. Right here, please. I bet I said that too loud. 3, 2, one more, please. 3, 2, last one. Yes. All right. This is legend. The legend. We have an Israeli in here. Thank you. Yeah, we normally have them down.